that I actually have the largest portion of Broward County. I have all of the Everglades, from the Palm Beach line to the Miami-Dade line, all the way up to State Road 27, and then I take in the communities of Pembroke Pines, Western Miramar, and also a portion of Davie. So I have a great deal of folks over in Broward County, and it's an honor for me to represent those folks. I also, in the Collier County side, if you're familiar with that side, I represent North Naples, Golden Gate, Immokalee, and perhaps one of the most conservative places in the planet, Ave Maria. And so, for me, it's a very interesting district. People will oftentimes say, wow, you know, that's kind of a funky-looking district. It's kind of gerrymandered or whatever. Actually, the Justice Department drew my district the way it is. And I happen to like it because when I cast my vote, the judges came up earlier and they're making a decision that will affect the outcome of that individual, maybe criminally, maybe civilly, but it's going to affect that person, that family, so forth. But when I cast a vote, it's going to affect 19 million Floridians. And so I think it's important for a representative to actually represent a cross-section of what Florida looks like. So I've got densely populated areas like Pembroke Pines, the 9th largest city in Florida. And then I've got all the environmental concerns you could possibly want. And then I have rural communities on the other coast and representing the agricultural interests and so forth. So I think it's a nice balanced approach to be able to weigh in on all the issues because they really do affect my entire district. So with that, I did get elected in 2007 in a special election when my predecessor, who some of you might know, passed away from cancer. And then I was elected for my own term in 2008, and by good fortune, I'm up again this year, and we'll do battle in the general election. But let's talk a little bit about this legislative session and help you to understand a little bit about what we do up there. First of all, most people, quite honestly, need a little bit of a refresher in civics. I'm not a congressman. So I cannot tell you how many emails I got during the national health care debate begging me not to vote for national health care. It was pretty easy because I didn't have a vote. So it wasn't going to be a real challenge at that point. However, it's important to know that, just as Scott said, what we do in Tallahassee is extremely important to your day-to-day lives. Passing laws that those judicial candidates are certainly going to have to be enforcing in the courtrooms. And so what we do up there, first and foremost, is dictated by our state constitution. And I saw out on the desk copies of our U.S. Constitution, but we do have a state constitution that was redrafted in 1968. And in that Constitution, it dictates we are a citizen legislature. And so we meet for 60 days a year. We start the first Tuesday in March and then the first Friday in May. And during that period of time, we are charged with one task and one task only. And that is to pass a balanced budget. It's the only thing we have to do. If we pass any other piece of legislation, it's secondary to passing a balanced budget. We could leave there with passing only one thing. Now, we didn't. But we could have. So our charge when we get there is to be all things about the budget, because that is what our charge is designed for in the Constitution. And we did pass a balanced budget this year in the range of about $70 billion. That budget has gone down tremendously over the years, over the last few years, obviously, because we've had declines in revenue, and we certainly can't spend more than what you send us. And quite frankly, that would make us California. So we don't want to be that. We don't want to be that. No, we're the third most populous state. We don't want to grow up to be California in that respect. So we did pass the balanced budget, and quite frankly, we made some decisions that some of you may not have liked. We had to make some very challenging decisions. When we go up there this year, early estimates are that we're going to be about $6.2 billion short. Now, I don't know about you, but the federal government throws around billions and trillions like they're just common words. Used to be that a trillion to me was almost like a gazillion, didn't mean anything to me, okay? Well, now that's just how they talk. Well, in our world, let me put into perspective what billions actually value in Florida. So you can kind of put into perspective what we're going to be dealing with next year. If you took all the correctional facilities in the state of Florida, all the inmates, roughly 103,000, all the prison guards, all the wardens, administration, added in every environmental program that the state does, all of the expenses to the executive office of our government, the governor's office, you still wouldn't have $6 billion. Now, I'm not advocating that we're going to cut every prison, don't misunderstand. But that is the enormity of the challenge that we are going to be faced with next year. So just put that on the back burner and think about it when you start reading those articles in the Sun Sentinel and the Miami Herald and so forth. But that's the challenge we're going to be looking at. Now, we came in this past year $5 billion short, and we're able to make that work. But certainly we're going to be challenged when it comes to looking at some of those things. So let me tell you about a couple of the things that we did do this legislative session that helped to get us on the right track. Under Speaker Creedle's leadership, he created kind of an initiative called High Performance Government. He's kind of a NASCAR fan, so the people he assigned to it were his pit crew, he called them. I didn't make it up, that's what he called it. I can't help it. But I got to be on his pit crew, and I got to focus on one particular issue, and it's an issue that is very much a challenge for our state government. Over the last decade or so, most of our state agencies have gone through a bit of retooling, introspection, reorganization, whatever you want to call it. And there were a few agencies left. Well, one of them that was left was the Department of Health. And he tasked me with the process of beginning to reorganize the entire Department of Health. Now, kind of an odd thing, but they actually spend 5% of the state's budget. One agency. Unfortunately, they really just don't know how they do it. And that's a problem.